I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and this is At Home in Bloomington, brought to you by Karen Russell, Ruoff Home Mortgage. We profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington, and help you live your best life. At Home in Bloomington. Welcome to At Home in Bloomington. I am your host, Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and I am joined, as always, by Miss Karen Russell, the best damn lender in the state of Indiana. Do you have that copyright yet?
Not yet.
What is the term? I just said copyright because I totally sound like I'm from Indiana.
It's copyrighted.
Copyrighted?
Like with an ED. We'll have to look that one up.
Rachel, can you Google that for us, please? I think I'm extra sensitive because my father's in town, and I remember one time, he lives in Texas. Mm-hmm. We're originally from California, so I like to think we don't have accents because we're from California.
I didn't think your dad had an accent. I met him.
Well, he says a few words funny,
okay.
Texas-like.
I should have asked him
Italian.
yesterday.
That one drives me crazy. But anyways, he says I have a really thick Southern Indiana accent. He accuses me of that. He's like, I didn't raise you like that because we're all from California. So anyways, copyright. Where am I going? This is going to be the show. So this is a little caveat here. This is going to be the show today. It's copyrighted. Thank you, Rachel. She looked that up.
I'm dropping the mic, but you can't see me.
Okay. Rachel, who is the Best Damn Associate Producer in the state of Indiana, also... I always get this wrong. Face of an angel, mouth of a sailor, so we don't let her talk because she curses a lot. God bless her. Okay, so if you've listened to the show before, you may remember that we have a little game we like to play. I feel like I shouldn't do this to you today because it's all like we're recording later than we normally record. We've all had long days. It's a Monday, and now I'm just putting you through further mental challenge.
I'm used to it. I'm ready. I've been preparing all weekend.
Okay, so our little game is that we usually try to keep secret from Karen who the guest is. And then they show up and she tries to kind of size them up and down. I like to say that we do this for professional reasons because Karen's acting.
That's what we say.
Right. That's what we say. That Karen is acting as our guest, and if she looks confused or kicks me under the table, that means that I'm saying something that isn't making sense and we need to regroup. Right. So she's a good litmus test for that. However, mostly we just do it because it's entertaining.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
So a little backstory to this episode. I'm not going to go on and on, but we had actually intended to record this show several days ago, had some technical reasons that I'm actually going to disclose a little bit more about. At the beginning of our second segment, it's all going to come full circle. Trust me on that. But our incredibly gracious guests had already arrived at the studio, and so we're kind of hanging out. So Karen had extra time to size them up and down while we were trying to figure out, and then decided we couldn't do the show and we needed to regroup and come back today. So Karen, you've now had about 5 days to think about who our guests are. And I think the one hint as we left,
I've already forgotten,
was one of the questions I'm going to be asking is, does it stink?
Oh, I see. I don't even remember that.
So you haven't come up with anything yet?
And then I get no vibe at all. I have no idea what we're about to discuss. Yes.
Well, and I had intended on starting the show with sort of a quiz of hints. Okay, so hint number one, they were featured. We have two guests here.
Okay.
Kathy, and I'm going to say your last name wrong again, Gutowsky. Okay, thank you. And Randi Cox.
Okay.
They were featured in the newspaper a couple weeks ago.
Our local newspaper?
On the victorious side of a decision by the city.
Okay. Nope.
No?
Keep going.
Number two, part of their name is the color of my eyes.
Okay.
I'm batting my eyes at Karen right now.
All right, so green.
Okay.
Okay.
The other part of their name means the way or path in Spanish. And it also shares the name of my dream car. Because I'm a California girl. And it's not the Volkswagen Beetle, because I have a Volkswagen Beetle. So that's my one dream car, but this is my other dream car.
A green... I don't even know what kind of car. I don't even know you.
You don't know?
Am I on the right show? I'm not even sure. Like,
have we met before?
I don't know.
All right.
Okay. I give
Camino.
What?
The El Camino. I love an El
You've
Camino.
always wanted it.
With some hydraulics built in and maybe a little iridescent paint.
I never knew this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. My dream car. So anyways, welcome Kathy and Randi from Green Camino. Have you ever heard of Green Camino?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So she's like poised and ready to take notes. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
So how do you introduce when people say, what do you do? What's Green Camino?
curbside composting service.
Simple as that. Curbside composting service.
I would have never have guessed that. So I think the answer is no.
No
I don't
way.
think anything stinks. Because remember that was the question, or that was the hint?
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about how you started the business, how it came to be. You've been around for a few months now?
Yeah, so we launched our pilot in November.
Okay.
So we're coming up on our
1
year anniversary, November 5th.
Awesome.
We got to this point. We were compost volunteers. Well, we still are at Mother Hubbard's Cupboard for a couple of years, and thought, wow, we like this process so much. Can we do it for a living? And we talked to a woman there, Hannah Lenchek, and she actually had a very small curbside composting service that she had for about a year, with a handful of clients. So she told us where she took her compost, the farm that she took it, gave us a couple of her client contacts. We did an industry survey to find out, what's it like, what operations are like, what pricing's like, and then we just got started.
So there are other cities out there around the country doing this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been happening on the West Coast for a while, as you can imagine. Yeah. Texas, Austin, East Coast, D.C., Boston.
New York.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about how much could be composted coming out of New York City and how many people live in apartments and don't have any place to do that. Is there anyone in Indiana doing it? Anyone up in Indy or...
Yes, there's Earth Mama Compost up in Indy, and there is another composter. We just happen to know the owner of Earth Mama, and she gave us some tips early on.
Great. I love that you didn't necessarily try to reinvent the wheel, but learn from who's doing it already.
Yeah, we did an industry survey even and talked with companies from all over the country.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what the services that you offer specifically. I think in the second segment, I want to kind of walk through, if someone signs up, what's that like? But I want people to understand. So composting, I mean, just back to basics. What if I don't even know, what composting means? What is it?
Okay. Composting is a chance to take your organic waste, so food waste or paper. You can do it with yard waste, anything that has come from the ground, and put it back into the earth. So it breaks down and becomes a wonderful soil amendment you can use to help with your garden or not, just depending.
And the purpose behind doing this is, certainly, to amend the soil, but also it can have a significant impact on reducing what goes into the landfills.
Yes.
So do you have statistics on that?
Well,
I thought I saw some on your website.
Yeah. The Monroe County Solid Waste Management District recently had a consultant conduct a waste audit, and they found that over 40% of the waste going into our landfill from Bloomington and the county was organic waste. So that
40%?
Waste that could be composted. And
wow.
So that's about 26% of the total, not just of the compostable, was food waste. So over half of what could have been composted was food waste alone.
Wow. Interesting. So what was this, I alluded to, I say kind of a battle with the city because I feel like everything's a battle with the city. I don't know if it was necessarily a battle, but I remember seeing it was in the paper that they're allowing you to go kind of door to door and do curbside pickup, which is kind of a big deal. And so so I guess the city's pretty welcoming with this service and wanting to, that wasn't too difficult.
Oh, no. I mean, actually, before we even launched in November, we took 3 or 4 months and met with people because we wanted to make sure what we were doing was correct.
Yeah.
Above the law. We followed the rules.
Yeah.
And we met with the city first off, and we've been working with them all along. They were our first commercial client.
Oh,
so
wow.
we pick up the compostables at City Hall. In fact, we sent their 4-month impact report today, and they've composted 298 pounds in 4 months at City Hall.
In 4 months. So what does that look like? Do they have bins like in certain areas, or is it in break rooms, or?
Yeah, they have 2 break rooms, and so they have a 5-gallon bucket with a very special gamma lid, which you can Google. It's very cool. It spins off and on. And so we just go there on Fridays and pick up those, and we swap out their full buckets for clean ones.
Okay.
So they can just keep on composting. The other thing that happened recently, too, that really bumped their numbers is that their staff appreciation picnic, it was a zero waste event, and they collected 78 pounds. Yeah, 78 pounds of compostable waste.
Wow.
Yeah, paper plates, napkins. I mean, the compost far outweighed the trash. The trash was not even a full bag. And then they had some recycling.
Interesting. I've been thinking about you guys all weekend because I live out in the country, and so we don't have trash pickup. And so I kept, every time I was throwing something away, I'm like, could I be composting this? And my trash was stinky. And so I kept thinking, would this help my inside trash not be so stinky because I'm taking stuff? That's a really, I guess, selfish reason to compost it.
I've never even thought about this. And so, I mean, I thought we were doing a decent job at recycling, and having all the containers. Even though our trash pickup will pick up recycling, we still take it to the recycling center ourselves. But just that decreased the amount of bags I was putting in. But now I feel like,
you could do more.
I could probably do more. Yeah.
Did you grow up doing any recycling?
No.
Did you all grow up with
Not at
recycling? Or not recycling, but composting?
Well, when I first started to learn about the environment, I was in the 6th grade, and I got really into recycling and composting. I mean, my family didn't recycle. We didn't have curbside recycling, but a neighbor across the street used to take their recyclables in, and so he would let me stick our recycling in his, and he'd take it. And then I learned about composting, and my dad had always composted grass clippings and fish guts from he fished on Lake Michigan quite a bit. And so we had a really healthy garden because of it. So it was natural to add to that. But so we started adding our food waste from the house to the compost. And so
I remember doing some of that too, and that had to have been in probably like the early 80s. That we had a little bin kind of in the back corner of the yard, and grass clippings and other things. But I don't think we were systematic about our food waste. And I think that's what's nice about what you're providing, is that it's sort of a systematic, helping people establish a habit. And there are a lot of people who feel like they couldn't compost because they live in an apartment or they live in a rental. A lot of rentals here in Bloomington where, you can't really build a composting, station. So I guess that's one of the niches you're trying to fill, as well as the businesses.
Oh, definitely. Residential. I mean, we have apartment dwellers, but we also have folks who maybe aren't physically capable of composting. We have larger families that don't want to deal with it because, they've got their kids to deal with, and they involve their kids in it. And the other thing we do that you can't necessarily do with a backyard compost is we take meat and dairy and fish and bones. And so those are things. We even have a few customers who compost vegetable and fruit waste at home for their gardens. Yeah, but they use our service to take the other things that they don't want to throw in their backyard compost.
And why is that you can do meat and dairy and fish, and normal backyard homeowners shouldn't be doing that?
Well, we're working with a really large compost system, so the temperature gets higher and really heats up and kills the pathogens that we'd be concerned with when it comes to meat especially. So with a small compost pile, it gets hot, but it doesn't get quite hot enough necessarily to kill them.
So you could, as a backyarder, you could end up, if you put meat in there, you could end up kind of infecting the rest of the compost and turning it into something that's not good for the soil.
Or for you when it's used to fertilize your plants and you eat from those plants.
Right.
But also it can attract, it can and likely will attract pests. Just the odor.
Right.
And there's not just the attraction of pests, but just
think about that,
the smell that you're going to be dealing with.
Okay. So where do you take the compost?
So we work with Fable Farms. They're on the east side, and they're there's only 2 facilities in the county that I'm aware of that compost food waste at this level. They have permits from the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. So yeah, we take ours right now to Babel Farms. The couple that runs the farm, they are the president and treasurer for the Center for Sustainable Living. So they have a deep background in composting.
And what does their facility look like? Piles of rotting trash, right?
Well, I mean, it gets, when we take the food waste there, it gets mixed in with leaves and horse manure. The leaves bring a nice balance because they're a brown matter, carbon-based matter, to the food waste, which is the green matter or nitrogen-based. Okay, so that's both pieces to the both parts of the recipe. Yeah. But then the horse manure helps to heat up the pile.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And then what do they do with the results?
So far it's been used in part to replenish their soil at their farm. Okay. They are working toward having a finished product
that can be sold to the consumers. Okay, interesting. And how long does that process take to get, from your doorstep to the, finished product that can actually amend the soil?
Depending on the time of year, probably 3 to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
3 would be really quick, but if you have a hot summer.
Yeah, right. So heat is the key. Well, isn't that interesting?
I know. I have all kinds of questions. So I don't know if it's coming up. I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, so you mentioned City Hall that you have, that they're your first commercial client. So if somebody wanted to, how do they even get set up? If they're residential. So if it was something we were interested in, what would I do? I would contact you guys and then...
Well, you'd go to our website, greencamino-curbsidecomposting.com. And you'd select, we have curbside service, we have weekly or bi-weekly pickup, bi-weekly meaning every 2 weeks. And we recommend the bi-weekly service for vegetarians and vegans because having meat sit in a bucket with a tight lid on it can get stinky in over 2 weeks.
And there's the answer to your question, yes.
And then we also have a drop-off service that we started to make sure that what we're providing people is accessible. And so that's less, there's less of an investment. It's a smaller 1 gallon pail. But you have to motivate to take the pail to a drop-off location behind Blooming Foods East.
See, I think that would be I'm just thinking about my own family. I think that'd be a good start. Get my younger son involved in this, and then that 1 gallon, I'm sure that bucket gets filled pretty quickly, and then it kind of will, light that. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It'll give him that big picture and say, okay, wait a minute, maybe we should look into doing something at a bigger scale.
Well, like you said, when you start to break down just your trash and your recyclables and separate them, you realize how much, trash you're generating and how much less you can generate. So then if you can take the compostables out, then, that's, I think, a wake-up call. For sure.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be interesting just to have a test. Your family do it, I'll do it, and we'll just kind of see how much we've got.
Who can generate more? I'm not eating my dinner, so I can put it. It'll be a new diet trend. I'm going to scrape my dinner into the pail. Sure. Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your involvement in the community and some things you're doing, your company philosophies, and some things you're doing to reduce, reuse, and recycle even outside of composting, which I think is interesting too. So we will be back after a couple of short minutes at home in Bloomington.
Hi, this is Karen Rastel with Ruoff Home Mortgage. Did you know that you may qualify for a renovation loan to make updates and improvements on your current house or to purchase a fixer-upper you can turn into your dream home? Apply now for a free, no-strings-attached pre-approval to learn your options. Contact me today at 812-606-7653 to get started. Ruoff Home Mortgage is an Indiana corporation licensed by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. This is not an offer for extension of credit or a commitment to lend. All loans must satisfy company underwriting guidelines. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 141868. This is your Real Estate Realist, practical advice on buying and selling real estate based on my experience closing over 800 home sales. You know, it's easy to get overwhelmed when thinking about getting your house ready to sell. And it's easy to get caught up in the idea that you have to spend a lot to get your home ready for the market. But there are lots of free things you should do first. Here are my top 3 tips for preparing your home to sell. And notice they don't cost money, just time and a little effort. Number 1, declutter. We hear this all the time, but what does it mean? In my book, it means every flat surface cleared off. Think of a hotel room and how clean and sleek that looks. That's the vibe you want. From kitchen counters and the tops and fronts of fridges to nightstands and bathroom vanities, clear them completely off. And pare down your bookshelves and collections to about 20% of what you have displayed now. Go ahead and box things up. If you're selling your house, you're moving, right? Number 2, minimize furniture. My general rule is no more than 2 to 3 large pieces of furniture per room. Again, think of a hotel room. Less furniture means a more spacious feeling and more room for buyers to move around as they look at the home. See if a friend can store some things for you for a short period of time. And number 3, clean. I mean cleaner than you've ever cleaned it. From vents and ceiling fan blades to baseboards and light fixtures, buyers take cleanliness very seriously. It's a sign that the property has been well maintained. It helps a buyer feel more at home. I mean, a clean place is a place you want to relax and stay in for a while. Bribe some friends with beer and pizza to help clean. Just make sure they eat outside. For more information on easy and cheap ways to prepare your home for sale, listen to my Real Estate Today podcast, show number 15. You can find it on iTunes, YouTube, and my website.
My name is Donna, and my realtor is Deb Tomorrow. When it comes time to buy or sell a home, she is the obvious choice. Deb is not your average realtor. She stands beside you all the way, before, during, and after your real estate transactions. Deb is passionate about real estate, and it shows. So just do it. Choose Deb. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to At Home in Bloomington. I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and we are joined by Kathy and Randi from Green Camino. I want to say El Camino because during the break we were talking about our mutual loves of the El Camino car, but Green Camino, and we're going to get back to their story in a moment. But this is the portion of the show where we usually share a Facebook follow, where I encourage people to follow an organization or a person or something on Facebook that I think is a good connection, a good resource here in Bloomington. So I have to tell you about this deal I just got. I mean, it is a steal. Unbelievable. It also created issues last week.
Yeah.
And so now that I've gotten what I need, because I couldn't say anything to anybody until I went and got what I needed. But if you are not following the IU Surplus Store on Facebook, Indiana University Surplus Store, you are missing out. I needed a new laptop. As we all know, what was the problem with my laptop?
You don't have a W. That was
my
one
W
problem.
key doesn't work, and so it's very, very difficult to get by in this world without a W. So that was that was a big part of it, and I wanted a smaller laptop to be able to carry around to record shows and whatnot. And all of a sudden on my newsfeed it pops up $80 laptops. I was like, what the what? And yeah, exactly. And so I went and looked, and I kept looking at it and thinking, how can that be $80? But it totally was. And so I got one. They had about 5 or 6 of them. And I thought it was pretty funny when I was checking out. I was like, I'm going to get a laptop for every room in my house. She didn't laugh. She didn't think it was funny. I thought it was pretty. Anyways, it's awesome. They've got office supplies and desks and I mean amazing things like map cases to contain maps from these weird things that were built in the 50s. It's really a walk down memory lane. The latest thing I saw last week when I was in school a million years ago at IU, I lived in Collins. And, that's the old gorgeous dorm. They were selling 6 original doors from Collins, like solid wood doors. It was amazing.
Did you get any?
I didn't because I was like, I don't know. I don't have any place.
I know, but that's how some of the designers do it. They see that and they think, I may incorporate that later.
I could decoupage on it. I am not Joanna Gaines with a giant warehouse.
But you could have turned that into a huge dining room table.
Oh, see, where were you? See, now
I wasn't at the surplus store.
Well, you need to follow it, and then you can be like Deb, craft idea.
Yes,
for all our craftiness. They've got an auction going on with IU locker room stuff, basketball locker room stuff. I sent my dad over to check that out. They have a whole section of bike stuff, like just bike parts and bikes that are left behind. So it's really, really interesting stuff. It's a walk down memory lane, and there's some great deals. We actually picked up years ago. We picked up several refrigerators there for rental properties. Very inexpensive. So reduce, reuse, and recycle through IU Surplus. So that's my Facebook follow. Check them out. All right, back to Green Camino. One of the big things I wanted to talk about your business is a phrase that I had not heard before until I went onto your website, and that is that you are a benefit corporation. So what does that mean?
So a benefit corporation, we're much like a corporation. In fact, we pay taxes as an S corporation, but we put sustainability before profits. So in our case, that means we're doing all we can to create livable wage green jobs. We're buying locally any supplies we need. So our buckets, for example.
I love this.
Which are recovered. This is all Randi's work. I think we're almost at 800. So all our buckets, Randi has gone around single-handedly and collected buckets from local restaurants. For the most part, they're pickle buckets. So McAllister's, what are some of the...
Burger King, BBC, Potbelly, Dagwoods.
Yeah.
And we get, and along with the buckets too, are the 1 gallon pails that we get from Pizza X.
Oh.
So that Jeff Meese is
interesting.
Generously donated. That their mushrooms come in those.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, the plastic.
Yeah, the little blue tubs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember the pickle buckets from my restaurant days. We also had, this is kind of gross, eggs. Hard-boiled eggs would come in the buckets. I would never eat them. Because they were already hard-boiled. It was like they were in formaldehyde. It was really creepy. But anyways, but yes, pickle buckets. That's a lot of pickles, 800 buckets.
Yeah.
But I love that you're, looking for other ways to make an impact.
Yep. And part of that, the lids that come with these buckets are impossible.
Yes.
You cannot open them.
Yes.
And so we have to buy lids, and we buy lids from Bloomington Hardware.
Oh, okay.
So we're just trying to do all we can to keep our business local.
Interesting. And then you were saying, I think we were talking about it on the break. Gosh, now I forget what we talked about on the air. And we talked so much during break, and I said, we should have recorded that because that was good information. That you're gathering a lot of data, and you were able to spout numbers of how many tons, and you just recently reached a milestone, so let's celebrate that.
10 tons.
10 tons. How much does a car weigh? Do we know? How much does an El Camino weigh?
Is a car a couple tons?
I have no idea. I know. We should look that up.
Ooh,
you should look,
Caminos.
right? You should look at. We used to do we have another podcast that Karen and I did together about real estate, buying and selling real estate, and we did 96 episodes. And in the beginning, we used to measure it by how far you could drive and listen to our podcasts. And we're like, you can get to LA and back now,
Yeah,
so road trip. So you guys need to measure your, have a little El Camino, pictures. You can have a half El Camino, 5.5 El Caminos or something. That's how much we've saved. There you go. You can use that free of charge.
Or how many El Caminos we've kept off the road.
Yeah, exactly. So you, so one of the things I thought was really interesting is that you're gathering all of this data, and it's not just for your benefit. It's not just to, track and return on investment for your corporation, but this is data that the city and the county and really probably other similar municipalities could use to help figure out how to, cut down on what's going to landfill and celebrate successes. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about is this idea that you're kind of doing it, you're paying for more trash to leave your house, that most of us already pay for trash to leave our house, and that this does cost a little bit more, but it's very reasonable. Yeah. So are you willing to share what the general costs are? Yeah. Because I think I was like, how are you making money? Because it seems so cheap to me.
Well, our best deal is if you sign up for a year of weekly curbside service. It's less than $1 a day.
Okay.
Basically. But otherwise, it's $8 a week for weekly, and it's $10 every other week for biweekly service. And we have a drop-off that's $2.50 for a 1 gallon pail.
Oh, wow. So that's next to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a minimum. You have to buy a 6-pack of those.
Of the buckets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the buckets cost on top of the weekly
For
the drop off.
The drop off.
Okay.
The drop off is it's minimum $15.
Gotcha.
It's more so we can cover our credit card costs.
Right. So what's your service area? Because we were talking about the drop off, and I think that's important. Like I said, I live out in the country, and so I know you probably wouldn't come out and service my area. So understanding having that option, I think is great.
Yeah, so for the curbside service, we generally follow the city limits as our guide.
Okay.
We're always looking for opportunities to inch our way outward. And so we have started to do that just in a couple places. And then we've started a wait list for people who we're not quite as far as they live yet. So, so that we can contact them once we work our way out to them. But in the meantime, the option is the drop-off, which you can live anywhere and use the drop-off.
Sure, absolutely. So would it be useful if somebody wanted to get this in their neighborhood and it wasn't quite there yet, maybe to get several neighbors and, hey, we've got 10 people in the neighborhood that want to do it, then it starts to make sense for you.
Yes. Yeah, that would be awesome. And we'll come talk to your neighborhood association.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So you're looking for connections. These are the things I'm hearing. Neighborhood associations, anyone to, speak to. And just because you're talking about education is huge. Really a driving force. Like 50% of what you're trying to do is educate people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we require an education component for all of our commercial clients. I mean, otherwise the service isn't going to be a success because you have to, bring people along and educate them on what is and isn't compostable. I mean, and every time we've done those educational sessions, the participation increases.
Somebody comes out and says, I want this at my house too.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to write down a question.
That's what I was thinking too, because when we first got into recycling, not too long ago, but several years back, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can recycle this or that. And then I thought, can I? I mean, and so we kept turning things over, looking for that, the symbol, and we just, but we didn't have an education. We just knew we got some basics. And then as we started going to the recycling center and I was reading up more about it, I'm like, okay, now I know what we can be bringing. But something like this, it would be very interesting to hear what the education piece is, because I'm sure there are things I'm not even thinking of that can go into that.
So what's the most surprising thing that you can compost that people wouldn't expect?
People are usually really surprised to hear that they should be putting their pizza boxes in the compost.
Really?
Most people do put them in the recycling from what we're hearing.
Yeah.
Which seems natural because that's cardboard.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't have any grease or food on them, then that's perfectly okay. But when they have the grease or food, that's considered contaminated, and that's not good for the recycling process. So if that gets caught when they're sorting recycling, that gets thrown away. But if not,
I was going to say, like,
wow, like my jaw is dropped. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You've taken a pizza out of a box and nothing's in there. Like, there's no grease.
Right.
In some cases, the lid might not have anything, so some people put the lid in their recycling and put the bottom in the compost. But
those are people who don't have hobbies or.
But
that's a lot of work.
Cardboard breaks down very quickly. So we'll take paper towels when people put their coffee grounds in. They can just put it straight in the filter. They don't have to.
The filter can go too. Interesting. Pizza boxes.
I know. We don't do a whole lot of pizza, but we always have it. It's everywhere. The top of the box. I never knew that.
Love pizza boxes because I do a little composting on the side. It's not part of the service. They love.
Interesting. And then they get heartburn, and you have to feed them some sand. Well, I know one of the other things we've been hearing a lot about in recycling news locally in Bloomington is that the recycling center has stopped taking plastic bags because that's gotten so expensive. And we were talking about kind of the expense of it a little bit from the break, So that's, I think, in my mind, if someone's like, why should I pay for more, trash to leave my house? Well, it's expensive to process all of this trash. I mean, I think we're getting off pretty lucky with somebody out there is absorbing the cost for dealing with our recycling. And I don't know that it's us. I mean, I don't know that it's in our tax dollars. I think they're sending stuff to China, and that's been a hot mess with the bags and all that stuff. So I think this is another way that we're all kind of doing our part, and it's a very small, reasonable part to deal with, our trash situation.
What was the little tagline you were going to say?
Okay,
about
I have
waste?
to explain it, right? I read this diet book once. I sound like Desperate Housewife middle-aged woman. I read this diet book once that said, "Don't feel guilty about throwing food away." Now, I grew up, my mother grew up in the 40s on a farm, and everything. I mean, she takes every bit. I mean, there's running jokes in our family where, like, if you bring something home from the restaurant, is dinner the next day in some other transformed way, and we're like, what the heck is this? So, sorry, Mom, if you're listening, love you. She has listened to the show now. She figured out how. But anyway, so I always feel guilty about wasting food, right? And you said the same thing. Like, if your son Jack doesn't eat something, then your husband's like, "Oh, I'll just eat it."
We don't want to waste.
So it doesn't go to waste. And so I learned this thing where it says you either go to waste, WASTE, which is in the trash, or it goes to waste, WAIST, which is around your waist. If you eat it and you don't really need it, it's being wasted because it's extra calories your body doesn't need. So now we have a third option. We have waste in the trash, waste on our bodies, or we have amending the soil, which I like. I like amendable soil.
I can't say
happy
that.
soil.
Yeah, or resource recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to call it, instead of, even instead of diverting waste, we're recovering resources.
Right. What's interesting too is whenever, you throw trash away and you feel like, okay, if you threw a plastic bottle, we're all now, I think, at a point where if you throw a plastic bottle in trash, just regular trash, you feel guilty about it. We've got that. That's ingrained, right? Okay, I'm not going to do that. But throwing food away, I always thought, well, this is okay because it'll help the landfill because it's, and you just made a face. So you're like, no, now I need to feel guilty about that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just getting locked away.
Oh.
It can't give us any benefit. And in fact, puts off greenhouse gases. So as it produces methane.
Interesting.
So
and
that causes harm. And, it's being kept so that we can't do something good with it that we can easily do with composting.
Right. We're throwing good away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to do that. Okay. I hope people are motivated now. So it sounds to me, we were talking before about connecting with homeowner associations, neighborhoods. I'm definitely thinking businesses. This is a great thing. I know that my office just recently, within the past year, they started doing single stream recycling, and definitely looking for things to do other cut down the trash.
Well, if you get a business, I'm just thinking out loud here. So, do they get I don't know what the word I'm looking for.
5-gallon bucket?
A 5-gallon bucket, or is there something that's here at the office, or how does that work if you sign up a commercial?
So it's different depending on the customer.
Yeah.
So just depending on their volume, we have some that use a 5-gallon bucket and others that use a much larger container. So it just depends on how many employees and how much food is being used.
And the decor. I mean, because
Yeah.
there are, Envisage Technologies is one of our clients, and they wanted something, that looked nice and went with the containers they had in their 2 kitchen facilities. So they have 23-gallon Slim Jims.
Oh, okay.
And they rock.
Yeah,
they fill them up.
Very high volume.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you want to give a shout out to any of your other big, I'd love to recognize anybody else in the community, big companies or organizations that are using the service and thinking like that.
City Hall, we already mentioned we love the city. Envisage Technologies and Bloomington High School South. So we are doing a small teacher pilot with them where we're just collecting students are gathering the compost in the teacher break rooms and bringing it all to a single 5-gallon bucket that we pick up. So it's kind of a mini internal curbside service that involves the students, but that's just one piece. In addition to that, we're going to work with them on a waste audit. So we're going to help them organize a waste audit to figure out, how much of their food, especially in the cafeteria, waste is going into the landfill, and then from there we're going to work on them with a feasibility study to figure out what they need to do as a school.
Yeah.
And because what happened basically when they came to us with this idea, we wanted to start small with the teachers, but they would eventually like to have the whole school on some sort of composting program.
Wow. That's
That's
great.
cool.
Yeah. Any inroads at IU?
Well, they're really doing it all right.
Are they?
RPS,
Yeah.
Residential Services,
Yeah.
they have a wonderful composting program
wonderful.
that has grown.
Okay.
IU Athletics does some
Yeah, that's right.
composting. And
Great.
So
Good.
IU is
So-
going strong.
We had a sorority.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just recently did a sorority zero waste event. So
Nice.
that was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be something we just started hearing about last year, like in, popular, I don't know, People Magazine, no, but, but, in the mainstream. And it sounds like it's going to be something that we're going to hear more and more about. So thank you for providing that service to our community and educating us. I don't, like I said, I always thought, if I put my food waste to the landfill, then maybe that'll help break all the other stuff down. Nope. Okay, I'm wrong. The guilt feelings will come back. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for coming back. I really appreciate that. And hopefully people will go to your website. Tell us again, it's
greencamino-curbsidecomposting.com.
and also your Facebook.
Yep.
Which just search Green Camino,
Green Camino.
because I know I've been following that and seeing lots of pictures of people picking up buckets and some of the routes that you're on, and hopefully you're posting some of your events and where people can talk to you and that sort of thing, because I think great things are coming down the road for you. So thank you for being a part of our community.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with another great show. So make sure that you are liking us, following us, all that good stuff that the kids are doing these days. Thanks, Karen, for joining, and thanks for your sponsorship of our show.
Oh, thank you for having me too.
All right, this was At Home in Bloomington with Realtor Deb Tomorrow. Got a show idea? I'd love to hear it. And be sure to contact me for all your real estate needs and questions too. You can email me at deb@realrealestatetoday.com and follow me on Facebook at Deb Tomorrow Realtor. To contact Karen Rastel for all your mortgage needs, call 812-606-7653 or log on to ruoff.com and go to the Bloomington Center. Thanks to all the Bloomington people who make production of At Home in Bloomington possible. Special thanks to superstar producer Rachel G. Gregorio, digital guru Cynthia Hogan at Monster Digital Marketing for website design and hosting, and video genius Wes Lasher in the production house for engineering the show.